Welcome to today's podcast, where we dig into a hidden chapter of early Christianity, right from the sands of Egypt, from a discovery in a village called Nag Hammadi.
I'm pumped, really pumped. So, we're talking about texts that the mainstream church essentially tried to bury?
Yep, exactly. Imagine this. In 1945, a farmer in the Egyptian desert unearths a clay jar. Over 15 centuries old, inside it lies a secret library, a treasure trove of Gospels and Revelations the church never wanted you to read.
Whoa, 15 centuries. That's like unearthing hidden bonus tracks on a classic album.
Yeah, and these weren't the Gospels of Matthew or John, oh no. These were the hidden scriptures of the Gnostics. They believed salvation wasn't about a nailed Savior, but about a deep, hidden knowledge. Secret wisdom that awakened the divine spark within.
Yeah, that's a wild twist. So, if I got that right, these texts portray Jesus as more of a mystery teacher than the dying Savior the canon tells us?
Exactly. Take, for example, the Gospel of Thomas. It's essentially a collection of 114 sayings of Jesus. No crucifixion, no, meddling resurrection narrative. Just wisdom, like, bring forth what is within you and save yourself. It's all about that inner divine spark.
Yep. Wait, so in this view, it's not about faith and sacrifice, but about personal, mystical enlightenment?
Right. It's, like a personal manual to unlock your hidden divine energy. And some scholars even suggest these sayings might be as old as, or even older than, the synoptic Gospels we all know.
That's fascinating. But then, what about the Apocryphon of John? I've heard that one takes things even further, right?
Absolutely. Now, this text is where things, get a bit wild. It lays out a cosmic drama. Imagine the God of Genesis is not the ultimate being, but this inferior blind tyrant and a false creator, known as the demiurge, is the one behind the material world. The true God, in this narrative, is unknowable, existing way beyond our reach.
Right, it's like comparing a deluxe model to a cheap knockoff. Whoa, that's a real shakeup. The creator of the world is a blind tyrant? That totally flips traditional ideas on their head.
It really does. The Gnostics believed that salvation meant, escaping from the material prison set up by this false creator, and instead awakening to a higher, spiritual destiny.
Got it. And then there's the Gospel of Philip, which seems to dive into some pretty provocative territory regarding Mary Magdalene.
Yes, indeed. This gospel isn't about sacraments in the typical sense. It speaks of a mysterious bridal chamber, a sacred union of soul and spirit. Some lines even suggest that Mary Magdalene was not just any follower, but intra-connected with Jesus in a way that goes far beyond traditional narratives.
A partnership that was downplayed by later patriarchs. So, are we saying that the Gnostics might have seen Mary as his true companion, maybe even his spiritual heir?
Exactly. And in one notorious line it mentions, the Savior loved her more than all the disciples, and he used to kiss her often on the mouth. That's pretty incendiary, right?
Definitely. That's a stark contrast to the sanitized versions we hear today. It makes you wonder how much was lost, or, deliberately hidden over centuries.
Precisely. For centuries, all we knew about the Gnostics came from their enemies. Church fathers like Irenaeus, Tertullian, and Athanasius branded them heretics, liars, even devil worshippers. They painted them in the worst light.
Like a history written by the victors. But then the Nag Hammadi discovery changed everything, right? It gave these texts their own voice.
That's right. It was like unearthing a long-forgotten alternate script to early Christianity. Suddenly, we see not one unified message, but multiple Christianities completely at odds with one another.
It's like finding out there were remix versions of a classic song. Here's something I've always wondered. Were these texts just fringe ideas from a bunch of isolated visionaries, or were they a formidable alternative movement back then?
Well, that's up for debate. The codices show that these writings were carefully copied, circulated, and even hidden at great risk. Some argue the Gnostics were a major rival movement, nearly as influential as the so-called Orthodox groups. Others, like Bart Ehrman, suggest texts like Thomas might have been later adaptations influenced by mainstream narratives.
That does give you pause. So here's where I might respectfully push back a bit. While mainstream scholars like Ehrman question the antiquity of these texts, don't we risk romanticizing them a bit too much if we assume they're all pure relics of the earliest traditions?
That's a valid point. Some critics argue that the Gnostic writings might have been shaped by later reinterpretations rather than direct traditions of Jesus' earliest followers. But then again, scholars like Elaine Pagels advocate that some of these sayings are indeed ancient. So the debate rages on.
The mystery deepens. And what about the broader implications? All this suggests that what we call Christianity was, from the start, a battlefield of competing ideas.
Exactly. It's not just a monolithic story. In one camp, you've got the church of blood and sacrifice, and in another, the church of awakening and inner light. The Nag Hammadi texts reveal this tension, a fierce battle between obedience to tradition and a quest for hidden truths.
Yeah, it's like two different worlds colliding.
And think about this. If these texts had survived in the open, circulating freely, mainstream Christianity might look totally unrecognizable today.
No kidding. It challenges the notion that what we accept today is the only authentic version of Christian thought. It makes you wonder what other voices got silenced.
Precisely. The fact that someone risked their life to hide these texts, likely during the time Bishop Athanasius was banning non-canonical books, speaks volumes about how contested spiritual power was.
That's some serious underground resistance.
And the poetic imagery in texts like the Gospel of Thomas, where Jesus essentially tells you that what you bring forth from within can save you, really speaks to the idea of inner revelation as opposed to waiting for an external savior.
Yeah, it's almost like a call to self-empowerment. It also redefines the relationship between humanity and the divine. Instead of a top-down, authoritarian deity, we get this picture of an inner light, a spark that each person has to nurture.
Right, it's like a revolution happening inside you. And then there's the theme of rebellion, not just doctrinal, but a full-on uprising against a creation seen as a prison. For the Gnostics, breaking free from material bondage was the ultimate goal.
That's a radical notion in itself. So, in essence, these manuscripts throw down the gauntlet by questioning everything, from the nature of divinity to the structure of the early church.
Exactly. And that's what makes these texts so compelling. They represent not just alternative beliefs, but an entirely different interpretation of spiritual liberation. They ask, what if the real teachings of Jesus were about inner mystery and self-knowledge, rather than,
It's
sacrifice?
a mind-bending perspective. And, if we follow that line of thought, the idea that the canonical Bible we have today was shaped by power struggles suddenly seems even more, politically charged.
Absolutely. The council decisions, the burning of books, everything suggests that Orthodox Christianity was as much about dominating competing ideas as it was about spiritual truth. It's like a tug of war over the soul of what Christianity should be.
That's a neat analogy. It makes you wonder how many other versions of truth have been lost over time, because they didn't have the power backing them.
Right. And that's the enduring legacy of the Nag Hammadi Manuscripts. Even after 1,600 years buried in the sand, they keep asking those uncomfortable questions that force us to rethink history and belief.
Yep, they sure do. This has been a fascinating exploration. It seems these hidden texts still have the power to shake up our understanding of Christian origins, inviting us to question official narratives and consider alternative voices.
Exactly. And whether you see them as heretical or as a brilliant counterpoint to established doctrine, these writings remind us that the truth is often a tapestry of many threads, each with its own story.
Indeed. And if this conversation has left you wondering about the mysteries behind accepted history, just think. There's always more lurking beneath the surface, waiting to redefine what we know.
Precisely. So keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep that inner spark alive. Thanks for tuning in to this deep dive into a hidden chapter of Christianity's past.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining in, and well, till next time, stay curious.